James says, "What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, be warmed and filled,' without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead." Join us on the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass to make a difference and let your voice be heard. A faith without works is no faith at all.
Hey Mo. Yes, Lou? I think younger kids need to know the value of sacrifice.
Yes, I agree. There is one place they can learn about sacrifice. If they tune in on WMAD and the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on Monday nights, they can learn. It's informative with current topics. And by the way, the show is hot.
The show is smoking hot.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. We are honored to have you as a guest tonight and want to thank each of you for your faithful support. Without further delay, allow me to introduce to you Mr. Baron Glass. Mr. Glass, take it away.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, June the 20th, 2016. Today is Monday. Today is one of those days that sometimes we have to pretty much wonder about how things are going to go. We have to wonder about this, that, thus, and so. But nevertheless, today I kind of started out, let me just give you a little background. I started out, basically, I had messaged several people that we would not have a show tonight. And the reason why we were not going to have a show was simply to give those who have been faithful in listening to this particular broadcast on Monday nights at 7:30 and Thursday nights at 8 o'clock p.m., both Central Times. I kind of thought, well, maybe we need to give those listeners a break, because we've been talking about politics for the last 2 years, at least almost every Monday, if not every Monday and Thursday night. So, being considerate, I kind of felt like that was something that we may needed to do. But here's how I believe. Here's how what I believe, and for those who are non-believers, then that's your issue tonight. But for me, being a believer, I believe that God has a way of doing things, and many times and oftentimes we have no reason why. We have no way of knowing the reason why he does what he does. So here we are. I'm messaging different people that listen to the show. I'm inboxing different people and saying, no show tonight. No show tonight. No show tonight. So I go to Facebook, I go to Twitter, I go to my cell phone, and I text multiple people. And before I finished messaging, texting, inboxing, or whatever you choose to call it, everybody, I get a message that says, why no show? Are you okay? Then I get another message saying, Why? No show. Is everything okay? We were really looking forward to tonight's show. So I got to thinking, didn't really give it, a whole lot of thought. But then as the day started to progress, I started to thinking, and I started to thinking. So here we are, God working with one of his people, one of his kids, trying to give him the message. And the message is this: no matter how many people listen, no matter how many people are affected, our number one goal from day one has always been to make a difference. And we have always believed that we can make a difference if it's just that one listener out there who takes away something from the program which they otherwise would not have heard anywhere else. So all of this stuff being put together, as I go and get prepared for my lunch, I go in the store and I run across an old colleague of mine and their daughter. And at some point in time, a year or so ago, 2 years ago, this particular colleague was having a lot of problems with their daughter. And when I say a lot of problems, based on confidentiality, I won't go off into it, but a lot of problems. She had turned to everybody that she could turn to. Everybody that she could turn to. But every now and then, God teaches us that there's somebody somewhere that's at the lowest part of that totem pole that can do just as much as those people who are supposed to be superior, supposed to be the ultimate, supposed to be the best of all, better than everybody else. You get what I'm saying. Make a long story short. This lady was able to come to me. And she reached out, and I was able, not by my own strength, but by the ability that God has given me and you, whether you believe it or not, me and you and I, has given us the ability to do things if we just trust and believe. So I had an opportunity to meet the young lady for the first time, because I never met her before other than over the phone, getting stuff situated and taken care of with the mom. So the daughter comes up and gives me a big hug and simply says this: had it not been for you, and I'm paraphrasing, I would not have had the opportunity that I have. I was able to go successfully and complete the Youth Challenge program. I am now ready to enter into the Armed Forces National Guard. And after I get out of National Guards, I'm going to go to college. But as she was in the Youth Challenge program, she was able to obtain 12 college credit hours. So anybody that has met me personally or that know me, know that every now and then I'll smile. And when I smile, it'll light up a room. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I was able to see the fruits of all of the labor. It was just this one person, just this one child, just this one person that was able to see what a difference can be when you just do what you're capable of doing. So I immediately said to myself, there has to be a show tonight. Well, if there's going to be a show, and you already said that you don't want to talk about politics, you don't want to talk about Donald Trump, which we may, you don't want to talk about Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, you don't want to talk about any of those other topics that we've been hitting the nail on every night. Well, I thought about exactly what happened. I thought about humanity. I thought about humanity being something that we all should be a part of. So tonight's topic is, what is it you're doing to help your fellow man? What is it that you're doing to help your fellow man? I'm going to say it again. What is it that you are doing? What is it that you are going to do to help your fellow man? Because, see, we're talking about humanity. We're talking about things that everybody should be a part of. Now, before I get into that, we know that one of the senators from last week held a 15-hour filibuster, which basically forced the Republican Party, the GOP, to have legislation put forth to talk about the gun laws, so forth and so on. What is it that could be put forward that all of these people, all of these kids, all of these juveniles, all these juvenile-minded senators, all of these juvenile-minded congressional people that represent us in Washington, D.C.? Because you see, when you look at kindergarten kids on the first day, and you look at those same kindergarten kids on the last day of school, it appears that those kindergarten kids have learned more than those juvenile-minded people in Washington, D.C. in 4 years than they've learned in 1 year. Yes, I said juvenile-minded adults. Stinking thinking adults. Because one thing we do know is that people, for whatever reason, these adults have lost their way with society. These adults have lost their way with humanity. And if it sounds like I'm energized, perhaps. If it sounds like there's a little force coming from me, perhaps yes. If it sounds like that I might be just a little bit upset, you're correct on all three accords. Why? Why do we have to continue to be fools? Why do we have to continue to be foolish-minded about helping our fellow brother, helping our fellow sister, all because of political differences, all because of sexual preferences, all because of the way God created us to look, whether we're black, white, red, brown, or whatever color you choose to label yourself. The point is this: why? Because God made us different, we have to be treated in such a way that allows you to feel less than a human being. So here we are, the Senate. Those people that you and I decided to vote on. Those people that you and I decided to vote on because we thought they could go to Washington, D.C. and represent us the way that we feel we should be represented. Well, guess what? The Senate today rejected 4 gun control measures put forward by the Democratic Party. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. So here we are. When you ask the grand old party, when you ask the Republican Party all about this, all about that, how can they actually care? How can they actually be sympathetic to all of these families who are going through the pains of suffering because somebody chose to go out and take a gun that could annihilate a group of people in a matter of seconds? So let's say it's not an assault rifle. Let's say the gun does not kill. Well, a gun with a person does. So if we have regulation on vehicles, we have to go through a test to get driver's license. We have to do all of these other things that have less problems than guns. Once again, nobody is talking about taking anybody's right away from them to own a gun. But what we're talking about tonight is this, and I'll challenge you briefly. And if you're out there listening on the line, I'll bring you in. I'd love to hear just a little engagement from anybody that's out there that's willing to talk when we open up the lines. Here we are, talking tonight once again about this thing called humanity. What is it you are willing to do to help your fellow man? You see, I personally believe, and I'm hoping that you believe as well, that humanity itself is the human race, which includes everybody here on earth. Doesn't matter whether you're white, doesn't matter whether you're black, doesn't matter whether you're Indian, Chinese, African, or whatever you choose to be called. It does not matter. It is inclusive of all that is created here on this earth. We can also say that humanity itself, it deals with the human spectrum. It deals with the human individual itself, such as things like the ability to love somebody, the ability to have compassion for somebody, the ability to be creative towards one another, not to be a robot, not to have the mentality of the stinking thinker, not to have the mentality of an idiot who cannot realize that we have a problem in this particular country. Now, here's my estimation that what's left of this country will ultimately be ruined by a lack of humanity and a lack of respect for humanity itself. You see, when people do bad things, it is basically testing your faith in humanity itself. When people that you see on a daily basis, when people that you see immediately after you've gone to church and praised God and jumped up and down, when you see people that ask you for money to help feeding their starving family, guess what? They are appealing to your sense of humanity. So what do you do to help your fellow human being? What do you do to help your fellow sister or brother? Now, we know that we all have a belief value system. Some that we would die for. Some that we often take for granted. And some, I'll say, that are based on what our hearts and minds dictate to us as what's real. Well, you see, some of us feel that what is real is that you do nothing to curb gun violence. Some think that it is real for you to do nothing to take away somebody's option that's on the terrorist list to not be able to go and purchase a gun. So what may be real to you may not be real to the other. The old wise saying is this: what kills one may end up killing another. We know that some of this depends on how we were brought up. Some of this depends on our experiences in life. But beliefs, I'll tell you this, and I want to make sure that you listen and you listen good. Beliefs that we have here and abroad, guess what has happened? Those beliefs have torn societies apart. Those beliefs have torn families apart. Those beliefs have torn friendships apart. Those beliefs have torn relationships apart as well. And guess what? The list goes on and on and on. So we know that the common denominator that we all should have is love, which is the greatest of these. And we should have compassion for those who are our fellow female or male. You see, humanity itself, for some, is the right to experience your own reality. It allows you to live out your own destiny. And it allows you to do it in the most harmonious ways. And it allows you to do it in a peaceful environment that allows you to go from point A to point B. You see, when you leave church on Sundays, for those who go, when you leave Wednesday night prayer meeting, for those who go, when you leave your job, or when you leave a circle of friends where you just got finished talking about all of these things that you do for your fellow man, knowing that you're lying. But then you're faced with feeding a homeless man. You're faced with feeding a homeless man. You see, humanity itself is feeding a homeless man who has not eaten in over 36 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours with food that can sustain him until he can find his next meal. So again, what is it that you are willing to do to help your fellow man? You see, when you're on Facebook, or when you're talking to some of your colleagues, or when you're talking to some of your racist friends who are talking about the president in the most downtrodden way that you can talk about, or when you're talking about somebody because they're fat, when you're talking about somebody like Donald Trump did because they have a disability, when you're talking about somebody you know nothing about, you see, humanity itself is treating your enemy with respect that he or she is due as consequences of existing in this world with you and I. And it also is having enough respect for God to honor his place in the universe itself. Now, whether you are a believer or not, I'm not apologizing for being a believer. I'm not apologizing for speaking about a belief system or a belief value system that compromises what I call and what many call a God. See, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So if you are a non-believer and you feel that that is the way that you should go, that's fine and dandy. And you should defend that. But you should not get offended when somebody else is talking about a belief system, just like we should not get offended when you're talking about there is no God. You see, the lesson that we're trying to talk about tonight is that humanity is what we call L-O-V-E. Humanity itself is called L-O-V-E. The greatest of these is love. God is love. Love is God. Humanity is love itself. So, if humanity is love, the question that you should ask yourself is this: am I humanity? Am I humanity? I would have to say, yes, you are humanity. Why? Because you are human. You have the ability to love and have compassion toward other people. You have the ability to be creative and assist other people. So if you are listening, I have to say that you are a human. So therefore, you are humanity. Only if you choose to be. It's really a choice. The question, do you wish to help your fellow humans? Or do you wish to tear them apart? Do you wish to uplift women and your fellow men from gender inequality? Or do you sit on the sidelines like a robot and just continue to do nothing? Do you wish to empower some young kid in your neighborhood? Do you wish to empower children in your neighborhood and have them to be more integrated into society and teach them that no one is born a racist? That no one is born this way unless they choose to be this way? Or do you not and just sit on the sidelines and do nothing and act like a robot, which means that you are programmed and controlled by somebody else? You see, these choices are yours to make. These choices are within your power as a human being to make. So the question once again is this: what is it that you are doing to help your fellow man? What is it that you're willing to do to help your fellow man? Now, if you just take a second and step back, what does it mean to be human? Does it mean only serving our own type of people? Does it mean serving our own family? Or people that only look like us? or people that only talk like us? What does it mean? Or do you step outside of the box and extend that same humanitarian nature to animals, the environment, gun control laws, and all of these other things that are requiring us to rethink what is the value system here in this place we call the United States of America? My question is this: who are you in this conversation tonight? What is it that you are willing to do to help somebody? Not just because you heard this broadcast, but because you'll feel compelled to do it, because you know it's the right thing to do. Again, who are you in this conversation tonight? Are you humanity, or are you not part of this make a difference? How do you yourself define humanity? How do you, as an individual human being listening to this broadcast tonight, how do you define humanity? And what does it mean to you to go out and make a difference in your particular neighborhood? What I'm going to do right now, we're looking at about 7:57 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time. Once again, we're talking about humanity. I'm going to open up the lines, get the engineer to open up the lines. We got any callers that's out there that would like to chime in on the conversation. Humanity is love. I say that you are humanity. I say that you are a human. And if you listen to this, therefore you are part of humanity. We got any caller out there who'd like to chime in?
I would, Baron.
Okay, how you doing?
Hello?
Paula, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I am fine, Paula. Thanks for the note today indicating that you were looking forward. One of the several reasons why I chose to go it on and do the show, because we feel like if we can just touch that one person, we're making a difference. And thank you for being a loyal listener and a loyal participant. Let's talk tonight, Paula. Let's talk about humanity. Again, I asked the question, how do you define humanity and what does it mean to you? Go ahead, Paula.
One of the things that I think defines humanity is just, again, that same old saying of treating other people the way that you wish to be treated. Mm-hmm. No matter what situation you were in, I've been down and I've been up and I've been down and I've been up, but I've always tried to do little things like say hello to people and smile and thank you and help someone with the door or just little things. But over the last few years, I've become very involved in the Veterans Association. I'm an auxiliary member of the VFW and the American Legion. And I don't really do much. I cook for some of the events that we have, but mainly I go out on Friday night and Saturday night and have a great time. I've met some wonderful people, and these organizations are for men and women that have served in the military, and these clubs are a way for them to get together and not necessarily talk about their experiences in the war. I've met people that are serving now, but I've also met a man that served in World War II, and some in Korea, and some in Vietnam, and some in the Iraq War, and so on. And though they choose not to really talk about it all that much, it's a gathering.
of people that share that common experience. And I have learned so much from them because they are patriots and they love this country and they have put their lives on the line for this country, and I have so much respect for them. So, for example, we have auctions to benefit certain things. And I baked a cake and took it to the auction, and the cake sold for $50. I was so excited. But that's one way that I feel that I can get involved in developing relationships with people. I was never able to serve in the military, but I've known many people that have, by choice or not by choice. And to me, that is one thing I can do. The other is there are a group of us women that when we outgrow our clothes or get tired of them or don't need them anymore, we bring them all to one place and we go through them and we pick some out and trade and all that, and what's left we give to the battered women's shelter. And that's something we do once or twice a year. But when I quit working in the corporate sector, I had a lot of suits and dresses and shoes and bags and blouses and everything that I was no longer going to need. And I thought, you know, there's women that leave in the middle of the night with the clothes on their back and their children in tow, and they go to these shelters and they have nothing to wear to go find, to apply for a job and become employed. So I thought that was one thing I could do.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that when I have things that I no longer need. I donate them to the battered women's shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And our group has had baby clothes and kids' clothes and things like that. And so those are a couple of things that I think we can do to help other people
Mm-hmm.
that are in need.
Let me ask you this, Paula. We know that it appears that school systems across the state are more focused on passing tests rather than teaching the things that you and I were taught starting from the home, and as we exited the home into school by way of pre-K, Head Start, or kindergarten. We were able to get some of that teaching at school because we had a lot of those older people. Do you feel that schools in this country, including or inclusive of the government itself, do you feel that we have lost our way regarding a society when it comes to humanity?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised in Catholic school from kindergarten through senior and high school. And I know there probably aren't a lot of Catholics out there, and I'm not a good Catholic, but we were raised with a certain value system. And I don't think the schools really put any emphasis on teaching just general human values to the kids. And their parents aren't doing it. And I think it takes the teachers actually who are good teachers. They're not paid enough. But I think there are many teachers out there that do teach things like that. And I know that when my nephews and niece were in school, the church that they go to had a group every year that went down to Guatemala. And they took clothing and they took all kinds of things down. And they came back with the understanding that we as Americans have too much. Those people have nothing, and they're so happy. And they're so, they were just happy people. And they did things like build a playground, or, they were there for a couple of weeks. But my nephews came back and they told their parents, Mom and Dad, our house is too big. We don't need this much. And I thought that was a lesson, and that was through their school. That was, not their school, it was through their church. But each one of the kids went through that experience while they were in high school, and I think it changed them forever.
Mm-hmm. So, do you feel that as a society or as a government that our value system has been compromised with greed, with power, arrogance, and all of those other things that can actually, make a person go from the top to the bottom, and in this case, a country of people as a whole? Do you feel that those attributes play a major role in this lack of humanity that we're now seeing in 2016?
I think that our government plays a role in putting too much emphasis on it's hard for me to explain. I don't think that through government we learn any values.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that through public school systems that there are particularly any human values that are taught. I do think that through church and through parochial schools that those values are taught. I just don't see it on a daily basis where people are generous and loving towards one another.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Deb, I see you out there. Let me bring you in if you're still out there. We're talking tonight. What is that you're doing to help your fellow man? How do you define humanity, and what does it mean to you? Deb, talk to us a little bit about this thing we call humanity. When you look, we just saw earlier that a little kid was in a back seat and got caught up in the crossfire with, some guns, got killed. I think this was in Houston, Texas. We know that all of these shopping sprees of people going out, and I say shopping sprees because that's what it is, people going out and spraying people with these guns that can annihilate a group of people in a matter of seconds. We look at the United States Senate, the United States Congress with stinking thinking idiots. You have kindergarten classes that seem to be more intelligent and can cooperate more with them. How do we see this humanity thing playing out in 2016, henceforth until?
Well, I'll tell you what, Ben. I was out to say that it seems like people are losing sight of that humanity. They're losing. I don't know that they just don't understand what it is. When I watch the news, and I will say is when I see what's going on in the news and what's going on in Congress and the ridiculousness that went on out there today. You know, I really think that people have just lost touch with that. They've forgotten what it is to care about somebody else or something else as much as you care about yourself. I mean, and the quality or how it increases your own quality of life, not just by helping somebody else increase their quality of life. People have forgotten that. Humanity, to me, I mean, as a definition, my own personal, to me, humanity is just exactly that. It's caring about the people and the things around you, the world, the people, animals, all of it. You know, we're all in this together. We all depend on each other, and people have lost sight of that. Without those integral contacts of things, we separate and we die as a community, as a nation, and people have really lost sight of that. Now, as far as I had not heard about that child down there. That is just terrible. That is just the most tragic thing. And I don't know where these people are coming from. I don't know if it's being, I don't know. I kind of think it's being created by our government. It's, we are lacking in those basic teachings in school. I have a daughter that's in school.
Hey, Deb.
We don't see those teachings. Yeah.
You know what? Actually, I told you wrong. It's not in Houston, Texas. It's actually in Kansas City, Missouri, out where you're in your area.
Oh my God!
Oh, my area.
Yeah.
Paula lives in Kansas.
Yeah. KCTV reported that. The guy, the child was 4-year-old, reported Mashawn Kelly Wilson. Now, here's the thing. According to Kansas City police, the driver of the third vehicle arrived at Truman Medical Center about 2 a.m. The family of 4 told hospital staff that the 4-year-old boy was in the back seat of the car and had been shot. They said they were driving in the area of East 8th Street and the Paseo when they unwittingly found themselves in the middle of a shootout between the occupants of 2 other vehicles. Tell me about this. You talk about humanity.
That's on Paseo. I know what Acres Paseo is. It's a poor community, and predominantly African American community, and it is very, very poor. It always has been. I used to have friends that lived down there. I used to go down there a lot to see Tess and Tricia. And it wasn't quite so dangerous back then, though. I mean, they looked at me crazy when I drove through the neighborhood, but it wasn't near as dangerous as what it's become. And again, that's just disturbing. I did not realize that it was in Kansas City.
Yeah.
I don't recognize the name. Again, I think that's the government. There's a lot of government housing there. It's just a horribly poverty-stricken area. And I think that has a lot to do with our government. When you hold people down, they're in a battle for their lives. And they don't have time to think about how it's affecting the person next door or anything else. They're in a battle for their lives.
So Deb.
I don't know, did they say if this was gang-related or?
No, they didn't. They just said that, the individual was driving and got caught up in the crossfire of two other places. But it's interesting that you say that neighborhood is that way. And I'm almost certain that there is some congressional leader, there is some senator that's in Washington, D.C. or in the House, in the State House, that is very much aware of this particular circumstance or these particular circumstances, the living area, that votes every year to send billions of dollars overseas for reconstruction, building of other countries, but will not build their own individual representative districts. So when we talk about humanity, once again, I'm going back to those who represent us. Do they not understand, or they just really don't care about you, and you, until there's too much pressure, and then they basically know that Pressure's going to last probably for 4 or 5 days. If we can ride the wave out for 4 or 5 days, it's gone. Deb, you're in politics now. Do you see that being one of the actual factors? How do you see this? Because it appears that humanity is lost. And like I said earlier, what's left of this country, it'll either be ruined by a lack of humanity or a lack of respect for those who are trying to exhibit humanity. What do you think, Dale?
Well, I think you're right about. I mean, the government is playing a huge role in this. They have no humanity. They do not care about us. And if they try to tell you, and I'm not saying all of them, there are some good ones. We've got Bernie Sanders. I know we have Winston Apple that's running for lieutenant governor here in Missouri, and we're fighting for him. And he's a big humanitarian. They're out there, but they can't get up far enough into the ballot to get into the Senate because people don't go out and vote. And here's my point. Here is my point on this. We had the Missouri State Convention this weekend. I went to it as a delegate. We got there, and thankfully we had a great turnout with Bernie people. But I found out today that out of all of the delegates, we still only had like under 50% of our Bernie delegates and alternates that turned out for this. They had made a pledge to this. And we were just lucky enough that even less Hillary delegates turned out. So we wound up over 30. The DNC seats, 4 DNC seats, and we took back our DNC here in Missouri. Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing that happened was that they voted in, or they had set up the committee, the resolutions committee, and they had told us that they were going to put it 50-50. It was going to be, because Missouri won 50-50 with Bernie and Hillary, they were going to do 50 Hillary and 50 Bernie. Turned out they did like 18 or 19 Hillary and like 3 Bernie people. And then we found out later they had voted on the resolutions that they were going to bring to the floor of the convention. And it turned out that one of those, well, at least one we know for sure, we think 2 of them, were actually Hillary people that were planted as Bernie people. Now, we got lucky because one of our organizers, happened to be walking by the Hillary room when they were doing some voting in there, and he took some pictures, and this person that they planted was in that Hillary room voting for Hillary on Hillary issues. So we knew for sure. They put out a press release, and immediately Roy Temple, who was the DNC chair, the head chair here in Missouri, he started backing up. Because that was the night before the convention, one of our organizers went after him, and we wound up getting 5 of our main resolutions on the resolutions document, and it went to the floor, and it won by acclamation. We had to fight tooth and nail for it because they don't give a crap. They don't. And the things that it wasn't that the things that we were wanting on there was something horrible. It was about, economic equality and, economic justice. It was about, now, we did get on the super delegates, so we're going to take it to the convention to try to get rid or at least limit the super delegates. So they probably did have an issue with that. But the rest of them were humanitarian efforts, to get people living again, $15 minimum wage, like that. And these are common sense things, and they just don't care because they're so wrapped up in the money and the corporate and the establishment with the corporations out there that's still in their pocket. Right up here in I was so mad today. Right up here, I knew that they had done that filibuster. I think it was last week they did the filibuster on the gun control, and I watched that. And I thought, this is, maybe this will help get something through their heads. And I really had high hopes for today. And I could not believe that they shot everything down. But the problem with the reason they shot that down was each side was throwing in some extra stuff that the other side didn't want. And I can't remember what they were, but I mean, I can't really blame the Democrats that voted it down because the Republicans part of it that they were throwing in had to do with going to war and military and stuff like that. What's that got to do with gun control here? We needed one clean slate bill. Nothing but gun control. Nothing else thrown in. And they want to play those games. And it's because they don't care about the people. They don't care that those people in Orlando got shot. They don't care about Sandy Hook and that those kids got shot. They care about their little agendas off here to the side.
Right, which is why I started out calling them less than a kindergarten class. I started out calling them idiots, and I also started out calling them stinking thinking. Now, idiots, one of my good friends, hometown friends, we agreed that we're defining the behavior of the individual, the thinking of the individual, the thought process, of the individual. So let me see if we got. I know we got some other callers out there. Do we have any other call out there who would like to engage in the conversation? I'll pause for a minute. Hold on, Paula and Deb. We got any other caller that would like to chime in? Okay, there being none. What I see Aaron Hopkins is out there. He says that he's listening live right now, but he may not be able to chime in. I'm not sure what Miss Nikki or Dave Lamont. Dave did tell me that he was going to be able to participate, and then when I posted that there was going to be no show, he planned some other things, and he didn't know if he was going to be able to get out and around, and that's fine, and that's okay, because what we do here is we try to make a difference with those who are here. Paula and Deb, we got about 8 minutes left because we're going to be brief and I want to continue to hold. Let me ask you this. What is it that you would like to see happen within the next 4 to 5 months, especially going with the presidential election? What is it that you'd like to see each individual nominee, after they are nominated, to talk about regarding humanity and trying to make this one of the main topics of their 4 years? I'll start with you, Deb.
Well, I think we can all agree that a lot of these platforms would be a good place for them to start. I'm in hopes that when we go to Philadelphia, and I am going to Philadelphia, I have my plane ticket spot, that we can make a difference and either get Bernie in to where because his platforms are humanitarian, and maybe we could push some of our other Democratic nominees and even on a local level to start adopting more of those. Because we've got to do something. The biggest thing, voting is important. Don't get me wrong. But we've got to get more people involved. We have got to get them active. And as long as it's just like the delegates that didn't show up or people that got discouraged and decided not to vote, when they see what's going on, that doesn't help the matter. It makes it worse. And we've got to find a way to get those people out there. When I made a commitment to be a delegate, I was serious about it. This is my way of helping humanity. This is what I've chosen to do.
Right.
To get involved this way where I can make a difference on a big level. And I still do my local things because I think your local things are your grassroots where it's most important. You can affect the lives of the people that are immediate to you, like your neighbors, or people at that level. But we can only do so much here. We've got to get a hold of that government, and we've got to be involved with that and make a difference at a higher level. So it's never going to change because they're going to continue to get worse.
Right. Let me bring. He just came in, Dave Lamont. I'm hoping Dave tonight we're talking, a little bit about humanity. What is it you're doing to help your fellow man? How do you define humanity, and what does it mean to you? Dave Lamont from Screens from the Center. Dave, let me let you chime in because I know that you had some things that you had to do. Thanks for taking the time to join in tonight, Dave Lamont.
How you doing tonight, everybody?
Doing fine.
All right. So my take on humanity is, while I'm not religious, I do believe in the golden rule. Be good to, be as good to people as you like to be to yourself, and I think that generally speaking, you'll come out ahead in the end there. So I try to take that philosophy as much as possible when I'm dealing with people. But we see in society today, especially in our politicians, for instance, with the disgraceful votes that happened on the Hill today in the Senate.
And Dave, talk about that a little when you get a chance.
Sure. And humanity takes backdoor to, it seems like, political power and money. So we've got a lot to work on as a society to improve how we treat each other and think of each other. I'm also reminded same kinds of politicians, the same exact side of the aisle, is frequently happy with insulting and belittling minorities, the poor, the disenfranchised, and they go out of their way to do that, and it just kind of disgusts me.
And Dave, it seems as if there is a viable party leader by the name of Donald Trump, who appears to have no humanity for the human race with regards to his particular campaign. And what I don't understand is that for those who can even muster the thought of supporting this guy, knowing the things he said, and he's been very blatant, very blunt about how he feels. I mean, how can a person not be a hypocrite and say that they are for all of these things we're talking about, but they are supporting a candidate who's against, or at least exudes those characteristics of being against those things that we're talking about here tonight, such as humanity, love, and helping your fellow man, male or female.
I sometimes wonder if Trump is more show than he is substance. So I don't think that I can answer that particularly in the way that people would expect me to. Only because I think that that Trump may not actually believe in some of the stuff that he says. I think that he is someone who's doing this for whatever reason he has in there. Maybe it was a joke campaign to start off with. Maybe he's trying to prove a point. Maybe he is and does follow these things that he says. It's hard to tell at this point because it seems so over the top that I just can't believe that someone like that functions in society today.
Well, I'll tell you, Deb just told us on a live link about her great humanitarian gesture. Someone fell on hard times, and a couple of weeks ago, and she actually gave them a place to stay, and that's hats off to Deb. I just got another message in that said, being a good person does not depend on your religion, status in life, race, skin color, political views, and culture. It depends on how you do good to others, which we're all on the same page on that. Paula, let me go it on and shoot it back to you. What is it that you like to see with regards to whoever the nominees are from that point on to the actual election, and from the election for the next 4 years regarding putting this particular conversation at the top of their list?
Well, I think Hillary's going to get elected, and I think that's been planned for years. But during the campaign, she has mimicked many of Bernie's thoughts. And it's my hope that if she does get elected, that she won't pivot on that due to her ties with the donors and the big money. Now, I think Donald Trump has brought out the very worst in people, and it has surprised me how many people have gravitated towards him with that message of hate. I really didn't think that our society was in that bad a shape. And in regards to the little boy that was shot, I live in Kansas City now, and I'm from here. And I remember before I moved out to Montana that I, too, had become jaded to the news of a murder every night, of terrible things like that happening every day. And you hear it on the 5 o'clock news every single night. And at some point, I think you become numb to it. When I moved out to Montana, there had not been a murder where I live in something like 10 years. And the newspaper reported funny things. It was just a whole different society.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would like to see is for Donald Trump to lose. Okay. And one thing I am impressed with is that since Bernie's campaign, there are over 7,000 people that have signed up to run for political office. And there is a movement, or there's in Chicago going on, I believe it's right now, called the People's Summit.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a thing that's going on all over the country. And I have RSVP'd to the one that's here in Kansas City. And that is where people are going to get together and try and induce change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, and I don't know enough about it right now to discuss it, but I've already signed up to go.
Right.
And it seems to me that even though Bernie is not going to be the president, I think he has had such a positive effect on millions of people. And I am so proud of those 7,000 people that have registered to get into public office. And I think that what the idea is to get the money out of politics and more grassroots support and people that really are interested in doing good for society rather than getting in it for themselves and for the money.
Well, I'll tell you.
And I see that as a very positive change in our society.
And I'll tell you, Paula, your good friend Deb just notated us once again out there on the live link that she has decided to put her name on the ballot for the 48th Congressional District. She signed on with the Bernie campaign, and that is wonderful. Being able and having the courage to actually get involved and run for public office. Dave Lamont is out there congratulating her. If you're out there listening, Debbie Dilks is on Facebook. You can catch her on Twitter as well. If you want to say congratulations or wish her the very best of luck. When I say luck, I mean that from the standpoint of, hope everything go well. Moral support is good. Cheerleading on the sideline is good. I wished that I could get Dave Lamont involved in politics. I think this guy is very wonderful. I wish I could get Aaron Hopkins involved in politics. You don't have to necessarily run for office, but maybe be a part of somebody's campaign. I have the utmost respect for you guys and all of you guys that's out there. Debbie, Paula, Nikki, Dave, Aaron, Corey, and all Pastor Riggins, all of you guys continue to give me the courage that I need to continue to do, what it is that I do. I think once again, Deb agrees. I think it would be great to Dave. Dave Lamont, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let you close this thing out in whatever way that you choose to close it out. But nevertheless, we talked tonight about briefly, what is it that you're doing to help your community. Dave said, "Oh, please, only if we had no parties." Dave, I wish you ran as no party, no party affiliation, whatever, and whatever caucus you decide to, get involved with, that would be fine. I agree that this party stuff is killing us. But Dave Lamont, I'm gonna let you close this thing out in your own way.
All right, thank you. Well, I'm starting to put up videos on my YouTube again that streams from the center on YouTube. My recent one was concerning, I believe I did one on Donald Trump, and I did one on, I think, the gun ban. That was my most recent one. So a little bit of disagreement with some of the people who might be in the audience tonight, but I tried my best to look at both sides of the coin. So it's called Our Gun Ban That Is Really Effective. So I encourage people to go there, subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to build up my audience, because usually at a certain point it takes off once you get a certain amount of subscribers. So leave any comments or suggestions that you have. You can find me on Facebook at Screams from the Center. You can find me on Twitter at DM Lamont or Screams FC Center. And I'm going to be launching another channel shortly, and I'll let everybody know what that's all about as we get closer to that launch. Thank you.
Dave,
Dave, what is the name of your YouTube channel again?
Screams from the Center.
Greens from the Center?
No, Paula, Screams.
Dream.
Yeah, SCREAM from the center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Paula, I don't know. Dave, you can reach Dave Lamont on Twitter, because we tag each other. Also, Screams from the Center. But Paula, I'm not real sure why your Facebook is not out there. But let me read this comment from Aaron Hopkins. He says, "Humanity must be willing to accept responsibility for its inhumane actions, which are now seen on a worldwide scale. The originator of humanity is now in the stages of reprimand by way of Mother Nature, that humanity may repent and return to the human family. This is the result of man's own free will to live in contradiction to what is required to be a human being." Once again, stated so eloquently by Aaron Hopkins, who's not able to call in, but he's out there listening on Spreaker.com. Dave Lamont, your YouTube channel. Paula, again, I'm not sure what's up with Facebook. I've never blocked you or anybody, but somehow I cannot respond to anything. I can't see you. If I try to pull your name up, it says not available, because something evidently on your side has taken place that I have no control of. But I can reach you on Twitter like I've always tried, because I like to try to make sure that I reach out to everybody that are usual listeners that wants to be a part of. So I'll continue to reach out to you. Thanks, Deb, for relaying those messages. Dave Lamont, once again, brother, I'm hoping that in your own way, let every man be swayed by his or her own heart, that you get involved. I know that you are now, but a whole lot more deeply rooted, involved in politics, public service, or whatever the case may be, because I think you do a wonderful job, and I'm giving you the credit while credit is due. Tonight, once again, we talked about this thing called humanity. Humanity is love. We feel that you are humanity because you are human only if you choose to be a part of the process. You're either part of the problem or part of the solution. Thanks for listening in. Oh, yeah. Thursday night, we're going to talk about the media. So, Dave Lamont, I'm hoping that you can make time. Deb, Paula, and everybody else that's out there. Aaron, we're going to talk about the media, the differences between what the media started out being versus what it is now, all of the adverse effects of it, the pros and cons of what's going on. We know that media, mainstream media in particular, the number one goal has been to distort the message and divide the people. And our question is, what is it that we can do as media outlets, as media voices, to turn that back to reporting the way journalism should be, the way journalists should be reporting fair and balanced information, not one-sided information to sway one side or the other. Thanks for listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass tonight with Dave Lamont, Debbie Dilks, and Paula Stafford, along with Aaron Hopkins out there listening, all of those other important listeners. Thanks and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.